It's like, I got the rebound, I'm coming down, elbows out. If I sense that you're gonna try to steal it, I'm gonna elbow you in the face, make it look like a joke, or like I did it by mistake, hit my outlet,
they do that in the NBA all the time.
Of course, so it's like, so the moral is, hey, like little guard guy, like it's my rebound, get away from me. So I think there's something to that, like Darth Vader. He's like the ultimate, like, hey, little guard, like, get off
Everybody
me.
else is a little guard to him.
He should win. Look at that guy. He's the baddest dude in the universe. Like, he should win. I like dynasties. I like dominant teams. I like the bad guy.
I believe that each and every one of us has the power within ourselves to create the life that we really want. And I want to help give you the tools to make that happen. I'm Danica Patrick, and I'm pretty intense.
I'm giggling as I introduce this next guest because his name is challenging, but I think after many versions of potentials and then him clarifying it, here I go. Joe Manganiello. You'd know him from movies like Magic Mike or the show True Blood, being married to Sofia Vergara. Tall, handsome man that is also interested in Dungeons and Dragons. That's right, you heard me right. He also has a clothing line called Death Saves, which we'll explain about how he called it Death Saves, which means nothing to me, but it's perfectly understandable if you play D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. We also talked about his love for sports, as he had this sort of dichotomy of a life of being this, as he would say, you know, nerdy guy playing D&D, and then, of course, this other side, because he's 6'5" and very athletic, how he could be, you know, captain the football team, the basketball team, and I think there was one other sport. I lose track of how many captains he was because he was so athletic, and still is. So we touch on that at the very end with him being into CrossFit, which you know when someone's into CrossFit because they'll tell you, and that's me. So we talked about that, but we talked about a lot of really random things. I mean, we got into aliens, we got into meditation. He does, and I won't get this word right either, transcendental meditation. Fascinating guy. It was a really, really fun conversation, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did doing it. So thank you for listening today. Obviously, like, probably the most surprising thing in reading more about you is that, of course, you grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons, which I actually don't even know what it is. So maybe you could explain what it is. I don't know if it's a game. Is this a role play? Is this a Nintendo game? Is this a board game? Is this characters that you hold in your hand? I don't get it.
Everything you just said.
Oh my God, so
yeah,
wow.
You just kind of nailed it. Like, if some of you asked somebody and they just said what you said, that would be it. So before video games, yeah, I mean, you've played some video games.
I mean, I remember playing Duck Hunt and, you know, Track and Field on Nintendo.
Okay. Did you ever play, like, you know,
Super Mario Kart?
Okay. You ever play, like, I don't know, any of the adventure games, like a Batman game, Red Dead Redemption, anything like that?
No, there was one game, though. It was on the computer, and you had a gun, and you were like the gun holder, and you walked around and shot things. And I remember playing that one time. That was kind of a little bit fun, but that's literally the extent of my...
Well, that game wouldn't exist if it wasn't for this game. So this game came out before there was technology to, you know, hold a controller, view something on a screen, but all the algorithms, all the programming was taken from Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons figured out how to make you a first-person individual inside of another world, which then became video games. The idea of, like, leveling up or gaining a level, that all came from this game. They figured out how to do it with dice and probabilities and paper. And then that became kind of the basis for what video games were built upon. Now, recently, there's been a real resurgence of the game, I think in a retaliation against being on your phone all day. You're on your phone all day, so what are you going to do? You're going to isolate, you're on your phone all day, the kids don't even call each other, they just text, you're going to put it down and you're going to go into a room by yourself and then play this game by yourself. So what a lot of people are doing, especially, you know, my generation, we used to have poker night. You know, the guys would get together, play poker, smoke cigars. We now, instead of poker, play D&D, which is what we did when we were kids. Now we're all in LA working in entertainment as professionals, but we all kind of scratched that itch as kids growing up playing this game. And so as adults, it's like a whole different
What was the original form of, let's just call it D&D, it sounds cool. Our Dungeons and Dragons, it's fantasy oriented in that way, but so D&D, what was the original way you played it?
Well, so originally it was wargaming. So do you ever, like, there are people that go out and reenact
Oh yeah,
the Battle of Gettysburg?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah, there's like Renaissance festivals for like reenactments of eras,
famous battles. So
Sure.
like my uncle used to go out. He was like a Minuteman in Massachusetts, and he would go out and they would reenact these famous Revolutionary War battles.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and they would figure out
Yeah.
who died, how many people. It was like a science, and they had the muskets, and they would fire them, and you go down, then you go down, and they would replay these battles so you could kind of get an idea of what it was like inside of that. So that then, there were these guys there was a tradition of wargaming where they would figure out how you had these miniature figures that you'd see people in the basement painting, and they would reenact the battles versus each other and see if, you could change the outcome of the Battle of Waterloo, or you could change the outcome of Custer's last stand. Could you win with what Custer was given? And then it goes back to even battles of Alexander and Caesar. So they would play these battles out. And in the 1970s, this guy named Gary Gygax said, well, what if rather than controlling an army, you were just one soldier? And what if you could come up with the name of that soldier? And what if you could come up with all the statistics of that soldier? And what if you could fight as that soldier? And then a step further, what if we didn't just reenact battles? What if you went in a dungeon and fought a dragon or something? And his partner said, that's stupid. Let's just stick to these war games. And Gary split, and he started this game that then caught on and really became, for me as a kid, it was like if you watch Game of Thrones, that's like D&D or Lord of the Rings. It's, you're watching a long form storyline unfold episode by episode, and that's kind of that's just what it is. So for me, it was the basis for learning how to build a character, learning how to build a backstory. I also used to run those games, so it was I became a writer that way. I started thinking ahead in terms of episodes and how to develop characters over those episodes, which then became the skills and tools that I used on, 5 years of True Blood, which was a fantasy show,
Yeah,
which was
totally.
just like the
I
games we played when we were kids. So So all of these things I've done in my career, the fountainhead of creativity came out of this game, and there are a ton of people in town who work in film and television who also did the same thing.
They're coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, I mean, my home game is it's insane. It's I was joking today that we could probably put it on NBC and get good numbers. There are the amount of the talent that's in that room that play. It's crazy.
It totally goes to support my theory that you can make a job out of anything.
I write for Dungeons and Dragons now. I am on payroll. I write for them. I make figurines. I write storylines. I create characters. It's the job I wanted as a
You
kid.
manifested your childhood dreams. It's over, right? That's it. You're just done. No more efforts on any other level.
I'm just getting started. Well, no, I mean, but I've always said that. It's I'm in a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm like, how is this possible? Then he's writing the foreword to my book, and I'm like, how is this happening? And then Paul Rubens calls me and says, I want you to be Pee Wee Herman's best friend. It's just, it goes on and on. It's I stopped trying to figure it out a long time ago.
Well, you seem kind of taken back by it. So then what was your childhood like?
Me watching all of those people that I just mentioned. I was taller than everybody growing up and athletic. So I was the captain of whatever team from the time I started.
You're still
playing.
taller than everyone, just so you know.
My kid brother's 6'7". He's
Oh,
2 inches
really?
taller than me.
How tall are you?
6'5". So.
Oh, jeez.
It happens.
Just missed out. That's terrible for you.
I bumped into Shaq at the Netflix office last week.
He's a little taller.
A little taller than me. Yeah. So, it's like you go to the gym, you look to your left, there's a bunch of people smaller than you. You look to your right, it's a bunch of people bigger than you. It's it's just life.
That's the wall next to you, by the way. That wasn't actually people. That's the only thing taller. So you played these games, you loved it. Like, what was, was it an escape? Were you ever trying to escape from something? Because they feel like that, you know? Fantasy's not out of the realm of being a child, but what was the driving force why you really like dove into it and loved it?
Yeah, I think definitely the getting off the planet aspect. I'm on the board at Pittsburgh Children's Hospital, and I went back and started the Dungeons and Dragons Club there for the kids. So during their IV time, which sometimes takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, they're stuck to an IV.
Right.
And these are kids, like, one of the kids had a double lung transplant. He was on oxygen. Like,
oh my God.
There's just wires and cables, and just IV lines going everywhere. And, you generally try to protect kids from having to grow up. You want them to stay kids. You want them to stay protected. And when kids get sick like that, you can't. So, this game, whether it's a book or a video game or Dungeons and Dragons, it provides an escape for someone where they can get out of their own life and go be, entertained. I think that's why a lot of people go to the movies or get sucked into movies, or why there's such a romanticism about going to the movies, because you can get out of your shitty life.
Fiction novels, whatever, social media, a magazine.
Or, what is it, the 50 Shades of Grey or whatever.
Sure. Wait, that's not reality?
For some people, probably. So I went to the hospital and showed these kids how to play, how to make characters, the basic mechanics of the game.
They must have been blown away. So
they were yelling and screaming and high-fiving and I'm gonna go kill that goblin, and you could tell that they weren't thinking about any of this going on around them. They were they got to be somebody else and take a break from who they were. And I was trying to teach them that there's a way out of that.
Yeah.
And some of the kids, I just got an email from one of the kids, and he got home and taught his brother how to play, and now they play in the neighborhood.
Oh my God!
So
that's got to be like, those are the stories that must like be bigger than nearly anything, where you realize you've just changed a life. You've given them something to be joyful about.
Yeah. But there's really something, I think, to the game that. Like I said, it was just this engine for me to be endlessly creative for the rest of my life.
So why do you cheer for the bad guys then?
That's a good question.
It sounds so positive until you cheer for the bad guys, like Darth Vader.
I thought you were going to say like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No, like Pittsburgh Steelers. That would be another bad guy.
Yeah. I don't know. I just guess growing up, I liked being afraid. I liked the lights off. I liked the idea that there might be monsters in the closet. Like I like that, and I wanted to become friends with them so that we could, I rooted for Vader. I thought, why shouldn't this guy win? I remember getting in trouble for rooting for like Jaws. I don't know what was wrong with me. I rooted for Godzilla.
You said you like deep diving and thinking. So can you please explain to me how that, like, there must be some psyche to that that's like, oh, that was part of my childhood that I shoved down deep.
I don't know if it's that, or if it's like I was the center on the basketball team, and when you fight to get a rebound and you bring the ball down and some like little guard slaps it out of your hand, and it's like there's nothing worse than that feeling. Like you just want to kill everybody in the arena when that happens. So, I think it goes back to that.
I think this is all the games, killing everything.
It's like I got the rebound, I'm coming down, elbows out. If I sense that you're going to try to steal it, I'm going to elbow you in the face, make it look like a joke, or like I did it by mistake. Hit my outlet,
man. They do that in the NBA all the
break.
time.
Of course. So it's like, so the moral is, hey, like little guard guy, like it's my rebound, get away from me. So I think there's something to that. Like Darth Vader, he's like the ultimate, like, hey, little guard, like get off.
Everybody else is a little guard to him.
He should win. Look at that guy. He's the baddest dude in the universe. Like he should win. I like dynasties. I like dominant teams. I like the bad guy.
And Satan, apparently.
Well, no, this is an evangelical Christian theme.
Yeah, let's see it, because you have a clothing line called Death Saves, which is right on the top of the shirt.
Yeah, the streetwear line, yeah.
Okay,
what do I do?
Kids in...
Do a little dip or something? There we go, you can read
every
it.
girl watching would want me to tell you to do something different, but I'm just going to have you read what's on your shirt.
Okay.
Kids in satanic... Oh, I didn't realize it said satanic. RPG horror.
You were just throwing Satan at me?
I did, yeah. My subliminal advertising, I guess. But Satan is like, he's winning right now on some level in the world.
Is he? I mean, well, I don't know anything about that. All I know is that this is an actual Daily Mail front page.
Is it really?
Yes.
Yeah, tell me about the clothing line, how you decide what goes on it, and what. Like, first off, why did you start? Let's back up further. What does Death Saves mean?
Well, it means a few things, I guess. I think
does it mean to you?
there's a bit of it there is an ode to old school gaming in that. So it's kind of, someone who is a gamer would see that and instantly recognize that term, but it's subversive in that.
What does it mean in the game?
When your character gets when somebody knocks you down to 0 hit points, all of your energy, you've been
okay.
And once you reach 0 hit points, you go into a series of rolls to see if you live or die.
Okay.
And that's a reference to, number one. Number two, I mean, there is a bit of a tipping of the cap or in hopes of catharsis for the kids out there who, I knew many of them, whose parents and churches took their Dungeons and Dragons books, burnt them, took their Stephen King books, burnt them, took anything that had to do with magic or the occult or fantasy or Ozzy Osbourne or Black Sabbath and went and burned it and said that, Satan was reaching out when, if you listen to Ozzy's lyrics, Ozzy's talking about running away from the devil. He's talking about not giving into it. These games had nothing to do with anything revolving around Satan.
People fear what they don't understand, and in religion, you're in a small little box.
Yeah, there was this really shameful 60 Minutes interview with Ed Bradley back in the 80s where he coerced parents into admitting that their children killed themselves and killed other people because of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh my God.
There was never an apology.
Which wasn't true, obviously.
It's insane. I mean, the West, I play with some of the biggest celebrities, at my house in my home game, and none of us killed our neighborhood cats.
Who all have NDAs so that you don't disclose their names.
Yeah. No, they're fine. But, but like the West Memphis 3, they were put into prison for murders that, if you look at the evidence, clearly they did not commit these murders, but because they wore all black and they listened to Metallica, they were put in jail as scapegoats for someone in the neighborhood who was murdering children. So, what do I think that's about? I don't know. Someone's excuse for bad parenting. So they're going to try to figure out something to blame. Or
we project, what we're insecure about. So
this is actually an anti-Satan front page of an old newspaper that I am now, wearing ironically.
Very appropriate. I think perhaps it's been subliminal advertising that I didn't even really recognize, or maybe it's just really fitting for kind of the line of our conversation. I don't know.
Okay.
What is RPG?
Role-playing game.
Oh, role-playing game.
So this was
Kids
back in
satanic role-playing game horror.
This is the old Satanic Panic.
Friday, July 24th, 1981. Experts warn occult games infecting minds of children.
Yeah, and this is the actual article. I think it took place. This is writing about Chicago and the fear.
Well, let's face it, Chicago's still killing a lot of people. In fact, I think they're leading the way, have been for a long time. So I'm not sure that they can say it was just the RPG.
Not a Bears fan, I take it?
Well, definitely not anymore, that's for sure.
Oh,
still
water.
A Steelers fan, you?
Still?
I should have poured you straight vodka in there. Just a little floater maybe or something
right?
like that to be
water.
like, who do you cheer for again?
Yeah, that, a really good team.
So why did you do, what made you feel like the clothing line was something that was a good idea?
I'm into streetwear.
Okay.
And I have been. I always keep up with streetwear trends and Kicks and a lot of some of the bigger brands, a lot of Japanese brands actually. And none of the Japanese brands make clothing or shoes big enough for me.
Yeah, well, we've covered that.
So that was a big impetus. I wanted to
Make clothes for yourself.
And I wanted cool stuff that I could wear too. But then aside from that, a lot of streetwear generally skews either Japanese or hip hop.
Okay.
And they were borrowing from the well of heavy metal and really deep fantasy. But I saw it being done in a way that was not pure, I guess. They were kind of slapping skulls on things just because it was cool, but they didn't really know where that skull came from or what the origin of that design was, or that's actually a knockoff of this artist who painted this painting in the 60s and then, or this album cover from the 80s. And I know what they all are. So as a, a fantasy heavy metal historian, I thought, well, somebody needs to go.
You just gave yourself a new title, didn't it? No one's ever had that title before.
That's when I
like it. I like it.
I thought, well, I could do this right because I know, I know the progression, and somebody needed to go stick a flag in the ground and say, we're metal. Like, this is metal. This is fantasy. This is the real deal. And if you're a fan, great. And if you're not, we're still going to make stuff so badass that you're going to want to wear it. And so, right out of the gate, I launched at Comic-Con. And
Good place for it.
Yeah, people started lining up at 5 a.m.
What?
For a 1 o'clock drop. Doors open at 1.
Were you there signing?
Yeah. I just said, hey, doors open at 1, everybody come on out. And people started lining up at 5. I got there, and the lines were 3 blocks long in San Diego, which are huge city blocks. So it was 3 gigantic city blocks long.
Oh my gosh.
We sold out.
That had to feel so good.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, is anybody going to show up? Because we're not in the convention. I'm asking people to leave the convention, come outside, come to this store, line up
Running
while
some bootleg deal outside Comic-Con.
all this other stuff is going on in there. I want you to come on here, and it was huge, and people went nuts. We sold out right away.
Wow.
We launched online the next day. All that sold out within days.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, okay, so we're onto something. There's a lot of people out there who have been waiting for something like this when there hadn't been. And a lot of the artists that I commission artists from around the world in all kinds of different places that have different styles, different feels, and I match their talents with a certain brand or a certain character, a certain idea or something that comes out of my head. Let's do this.
Are you the creative director for the line?
I'm a creative director, yeah. I mean,
Did you ever see yourself in that role?
No, not like, I never thought I'd get into streetwear or clothing. I think being a clothing designer, that's a little too daunting for,
Maybe that's not really exactly the perfect definition.
Dude on the football team.
But you still are. I mean, you're going to get that title.
I am now, and I'm cool with it. But I mean, I just think like back in the day, I wasn't.
It's funny you are okay with being a Dungeons and Dragons guy, but not a clothing designer. It's interesting.
I know, it is, yeah.
But on the other side of you is sports.
That's right.
So, you said that when you were a kid, like you played Dungeons and Dragons, but then you kind of had this other side of you.
I had 2 groups of friends.
The real sort of like polar opposites of kind of the, prototypical kind of nerd gaming kind of person to this jock playing sports. So could you really keep them separate in school? Like, did you really have 2 separate groups, or was it just like, really?
I did, yeah. Well, because, if you're the captain of the football team or you're the captain of the basketball team, well, there's a keg party.
Were you both?
And a volleyball team.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. There's a keg party on Friday, and the cheerleaders are there, and the girls are there, so you're going there.
Oh, yeah,
But then, Saturday...
That's how you rule the world. You have to win them all over.
Saturday or Sunday, you might go hang out with, and with your gamer friends. So... it was one of those
You're
things.
like, guys, I got to be done by 8:30 tonight. There's a really big kegger, and you're not invited, but I'll be gone.
Yeah, I got to go buy beer up at the corner pub.
Because they think I'm 21.
Because I can grow a little bit of a mustache, which I think sells it. So, yeah, no, but that was kind of it.
So what age did that happen where you were like, man, I want both of these lives on some level, and they don't really coexist?
From the beginning. I think it was always from the beginning. I always wanted both, and people always want to put you into one or the other.
Which I say these lives, it's all yours. It's just acceptance, really, which is something that's evolving so much right now, is acceptance. Like, who gives a shit if you play Dungeons and Dragons, but you can throw the football as a freshman in high school, 55 yards, right?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, it just means that I think that there's, it meant that I was a late bloomer, because where I think a lot of people have one track or just that one life, if you want to call it that, to develop. I had that one, and then I had this one, and I kind of had this other one over here that I was kind of waiting in the wings.
A third one?
Well, it's like,
Was it the acting that was the third one?
I mean, that was the thing, is I also made my own movies in high school. So that was how I backdoored into acting. I would sleep with a pad and a pen next to the bed, and I would just write dialogue I would cast all my friends, I'd write dialogue, we'd go out on the weekends. 6 a.m. we're shooting. We're chasing daylight. I've got a shot list, and then
wow, you're like the OG content maker for like Vines.
Before there was anywhere to put it.
That's kind of how it started, right? The cool, cute, funny, crazy little clips.
Yeah. So I had like shows that were on the public access channel, the high school's public access channel, and then I'd play in the games, so then my games would be on, like high school so it was like I just was in. I my hand in a bunch of things.
What didn't you do?
Surf. I'm not good at surfing or skateboarding.
It's because your CG, center of gravity, is a little too high.
I think, yeah. It's bad. Even when
Aaron
I get up
actually says the same thing. He's like, you want to know something I'm not good at? Surfing.
I catch a wave and I'm like, cool. Like all that, like all that it took me to get that, I'd rather just skydive.
You're like, my feet are hanging off the back of the board. It's not big enough for me.
Yeah, it's not my thing. So those were kind of those are the tracks, and at the end of high school, I was going to go, I should say like middle to 3/4 of the way through, I was going to play basketball to get into a great school for academics, and then I was going to go into criminal justice, and I was going to go into federal law enforcement. That was my plan. I had a cousin in the FBI. I was starting to figure it out. I knew I could be passionate about busting the bad guys.
Bad guys. Oh wait, now you're gonna bust the bad guys?
Well, that's the thing. That's the Manganiello. So it's a Manganiello. We were talking before.
Yeah.
It's a billy club. Manganiello is a billy club that cops beat people up with. So obviously, like I come from a line of cops, justice somewhere, justice. And then on this side, that was my Christian.
Thing?
No, it was my Christian Bale.
Oh, okay.
Justice. You know he's in the Batman?
Yeah. Oh,
okay,
I haven't seen Batman, so.
What? You haven't seen the Nolan Batman?
You would be so disappointed with me. I don't watch that stuff. I haven't watched like any Lord of the Rings,
just like sports?
any. We watch a lot of sports. Of things that I've watched. I did watch True Blood.
Oh. Okay.
I liked that. So I like fantasy like that. I guess it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, look, I grew up watching 90210.
Me too.
Okay.
Melrose Place?
Yeah, I did. Yep, I did.
Are you watching the new 90210?
I just saw some advertisement for it last night, and I was like, but is it called 90210?
I think. I don't know.
I'm interested. I mean, it's worth an hour just to check out the new versions of everybody and everything they're doing.
See what they're up to.
Yeah, but I didn't really watch a lot of stuff. I mean, I watched one of my favorite movies growing up was Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, great movie.
Or Labyrinth.
Love it.
Right?
Did you see The Dark Crystal?
No. Is that another
Dark Crystal?
Similar?
Well, so Labyrinth had all the puppets with David Bowie.
Yes.
Dark Crystal was like a darker labyrinth without any people.
Because I watch Labyrinth now as an adult, and I'm like, that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. They weren't afraid to scare kids when they were younger.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I kind of miss that about fantasy now. I think fantasy...
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just the world... There's a part of the world that wants to go... Like, did you see the movie Demolition Man?
No.
When they all sing the theme song of Taco Bell, and they ride around, and it's very sanitized. Oh. And then this like criminal is unfrozen from like our time in the future, and he just like takes over. Oh. Because they're
and
so...
he just slays everybody.
Yeah, they've just become so domesticated that anyone with a bad intention could like take over immediately. So then they have to unfreeze Sylvester Stallone, who's an old cop who was kind of, hard-boiled. Like, he'd beat the confession out of you. They needed him to go find this criminal. Anyway, I think we're moving into that a bit where we can't offend anybody. It's true. We
live in a super duper PC world.
Everybody needs to toughen up a little bit.
I 100% agree with you. Let's just suck it up, Buttercup. It's not that big of a deal. Stop being offended. The victim role is so prevalent. Everyone's a victim.
Insane. No, I know. Well, I was watching this documentary. I mean, I don't fucking care. I'll say it. But there's this documentary I was watching recently about, talking about D&D, and they were talking about like people saying like they were upset that they weren't led into certain games growing up as kids, and it was like, well, why don't you just go buy the book for $20 or shoplift it or whatever? You can get it online for free, the PDF. Go get your own group of friends. What do you need these people for? You know, like it's just strange. It's like you really want to be the victim so bad. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, I didn't like a lot of the people I was hanging out. So you know what? I didn't hang out with them. I went and hung out with these people over here. Like you just, come on, why you want to hang out?
People just want they just play that role, and they lack imagination. Which, probably very much comes from lacking, like I'm sure you got a ton of imagination from Dungeons & Dragons, right? Like
sure.
Tons of creativity, tons of fantasy imagination, but they lack that, and they lack the drive, and it's just so easy to sit on your phone, or so easy to complain, and then there's someone to soothe you, probably to support your shitty idea or your perspective on yourself, and instead it's like there never used to be that, and you just had to be bored by yourself sitting at home looking at the wall, right? And you had to go find some friends if you want something to do. Now you can look on your phone and find your friends based on all the algorithms that they've produced to give you all the information that you want to see and feel good about yourself with on social media or whatever platform you use.
Amen.
Started watching a show called The Great Hack last night, and I was like, oh God. It's a documentary as well. Great Hack. It's like learning about, basically how they use social platforms to create the algorithms to get 4,000 or 5,000 data points on every human being.
Oh, sure. I mean, Google knows that. I mean, that was their thing. They know everything. Puts
everything in front of you that is associated with those data points, so they're able to tailor it all.
They have to be listening. They have to. I mean,
What this said was that there was like one of the questions at the very beginning was, raise your hand if you feel like your phone's listening to you based on the ads. And everybody's like, yeah. And he goes, what is probably even more true, outside of that being possible, of course, or happening, is that the algorithms are so good at projecting what you're going to think or want or talk about next, that it puts it there because it's that good at it.
I woke up the wrong way. I had trouble with my neck. Just woke up the wrong way, whatever. Went in, see my guy who does the thing. I had an ad on Instagram. They were advertising me the neck pillows. It's like, how would you?
Oh, I know, because it's tracking your location. It probably knew you were at a chiropractic office.
I shut it off. I don't let anybody track because I'm worried. I had problems. I used to have to get my car checked for tracking devices because of where the paparazzi were. It's like, there's no way. How did you know I was going to pick up a package at the UPS in whatever, Valencia?
Oh, wow.
Like, how would you know that? Like, it's insane.
That sucks.
It's crazy. So anyway, I shut it off.
Okay. All right. I don't know, but that's one of the things. But yeah,
off
people just want to be off the grid.
Not at all.
Starting a convent. You want to come? You want to be off the grid? You can play Dungeons and Dragons. No. You could probably really have dragons out there. Probably. Do you believe dragons ever existed?
I mean, not unless there's fossilized proof.
Do you think that do you believe that there were dinosaurs?
Yeah, I'm not a flat earther, if that's true. If that's where this is going.
Well, I've heard that they might not, maybe the bones weren't even put together right. Maybe dinosaurs are just sort of like kind of made up.
I'm going to lean into
probably myself, but you never know.
The simplest answer is true.
Yeah. There is some law for that.
Somebody made me dice recently as a present that were made of they had like mammoth tusk in them. And people went crazy online.
Oh, mad at you.
How dare you?
How dare
Promoting the murder
victim
of mammoths. It's like, I posted
10,000 years ago.
Yeah, they're dead. They're gone. Like, it's a rock. Like, you can't. I'm not telling people to go kill. I mean, do you realize mammoths? They died out like 20,000 years ago. Like,
yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Some people don't even think Earth was around 20,000 years ago. So there's also that.
Yeah. Well, some people think that global warming isn't real either.
Well, flat Earth is an interesting thing you brought up. I would say that it's probably more likely. I think it's round. I do, but I think it's probably more likely than flat Earth that it's a holographic universe.
Okay, so are we talking?
So we're like mentally.
Is this like McConaughey?
We're kind of filling.
Interstellar.
We're like our mind is being populated by what we've learned and experienced, and just fills it all in. And it's everything in the world can be broken down to zeros and ones.
What's
the
this, though?
Matrix.
What's this?
We are energy. If you condensed all humans on Earth down to actual matter, it's about the size of an apple. I asked Neil deGrasse Tyson to
Like the
confirm
21
this.
grams type of thing, or
I don't know.
Well, it's like when they say when people die. Mm-hmm. Well,
That's all that's left?
Well, no, they say that they lose 21 grams of weight.
That's it?
This is like a thing that they've measured. So they say that the soul weighs 21 grams.
Oh, interesting. So there you go.
So there's your.
So it's
thing.
the energy.
Yeah, that it goes somewhere. So the question is like, are we all just transmitting data back to a cloud? Mm-hmm. Is there some kind of mothership?
See, you're not so far off of this holographic universe idea.
Well, there was a great I think it was a Playboy magazine interview with oh my God, why am I? Please come on, Joe. Eyes Wide Shut. Kubrick. I mean, my brain's sometimes I'm having a senior moment. But so Kubrick did this interview with Playboy, and
fascinating guy.
And he was talking about like the greatest fear in life is that if there is a God, it doesn't care, that it's indifferent. Everybody wants to believe that God's sitting next to you in your convertible on that sunny day, driving in the PCH, and people want to believe that it's not there when children are dying in third world countries. So there's this big argument as to, is God everything or God nothing, and does God care? And so Kubrick had this big, huge, he kind of like brilliantly pontificated about this idea that it doesn't care, it's impartial, and that's the greatest fear. So it's like
because when we have no purpose.
It just doesn't care. It doesn't care. Like it's just
because
it doesn't
we want
care.
Purpose
it
as
doesn't
human
care
beings.
if you live. Like people are going to get diseases. People are going to die. People are like random shit's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's all part of this. So then where does that put you in terms of it's like Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking, his entire life was a search for God, basically, and he died and said it doesn't exist. And I'm not sure if it was right or was it just. This is a guy who was stricken with something so difficult and lived the most difficult life out of anybody I could ever possibly imagine. And maybe this was a personal thing that like, if this could happen to me and I had to live like this, there can't be something. It can't be. It can't be. Why would it do that?
Did you grow up religious? I was
an altar boy up till 6th grade. Yeah.
How'd that go?
I went to public school the next year. And I told my mom, I said, I have to dress different because I'm going to public school now.
Yeah.
So you need to take me to the mall. And she did, and I said, I need a Guns N' Roses t-shirt, and I need a Skid Row
You rebelled
t-shirt.
Against the altar boy outfit.
But I'll tell you this.
The attire, the khakis, and the vest.
Yeah, first day of 7th grade, Skid Row shirt, like the hot girls are outside smoking cigarettes, the bad girls.
They smoke in 7th grade?
Oh, yeah.
God, they're cool.
Smoking cigarettes outside the high school. I walked by them with my Skid Row t-shirt, and like the hottest girl out of the group was like, nice shirt. And I was like, yeah.
What'd your parents think about that? Did they care?
My mom was stoked. Yeah, she was. I mean, as long as I was happy.
So they just wanted you to be happy.
Nah, but I think there was definitely a seed planted from that connects to heavy metal streetwear, because it's like there's a group of people out there who are pretty cool who like that aesthetic, and I want to take it back to smoking outside the high school in 7th grade.
And they're good people, and they're not.
Yeah, they're fun.
Murderers.
Oh, they're fun. I mean,
crazy.
Look, I don't really talk to a lot of those people today because they got in a lot of trouble as adults. But, at the time it was fun, and I think there's a youth, there's a vitality to that kind of aesthetic, that I remember so well from the early and mid '80s. Like it was fun, Danzig and Ozzy and Metallica, like all that stuff was fun, and it had this like fun energy to it, and that's what a lot of the line tries to capture.
How does this bring you to a place where you have this more spiritual awareness now? Mm-hmm. I mean, to go from being a altar boy, Dungeons and Dragons,
to a Satanist.
No, obviously.
Please, let's get.
Sorry, wearing a shirt making fun of satanic accusations.
There it is. Yeah.
But how does that transition for you? Like, what would you call yourself spiritual now?
Very much.
Okay. What does that mean to you to be spiritual?
Well, I think a lot of people live their lives, and don't get me wrong, I think it works for them. I think they live their lives afraid of dying, afraid of what's going to happen afterwards. I think there are worse things that can happen to someone. I think living in existence on this planet, I think hell exists on Earth. You know, I think heaven exists on Earth.
I agree. How would you describe either of those? Like, explain it to someone who's like, you know, someone would go, heaven's above and hell's down below.
Sure.
Right. I mean, that's what you're taught to just read and repeat. I call them read and repeat people.
Yeah. Well, you know, I visited a kid at Pittsburgh Children's Hospital who was on his 11th surgery in like 2.5 years or something. And he had to have his large intestine removed. And he had to drop out of high school, and he was put on an ostomy bag, and he tried to go back to college, and he had another attack and had to go back, and none of the medications are working, and he's like fighting for his life. And just the shell, I mean, his skin color was like a different color, like it was like gray.
Yellow or gray.
Yeah. And he's broken, and he doesn't believe that he's going to get out of there. He doesn't believe that he's going to be okay. And he doesn't believe that he's going to get back to a normal life or have anything in life that resembles something that you would strive for. And you look at that kid, and then you look at his mom sitting next to the bed, and that's her kid, watching him do all of this and being powerless to do anything about it. Like, that's hell. Like, it's hell. You're stuck. And so what keeps somebody going through that? You know, what keeps somebody who's paralyzed from the neck down going? Who has to completely be taken care of, and all the help that's being hired are doing a horrible job. And you know, I know people like that, and I've talked to them, and the only thing that they can do, or I guess the meaning of life, is that maybe you can help the next person. You know, that you have to be open or pray. You don't pray to be saved, you pray to have the strength to get through what you're going through. Because you might be able to be an example for somebody else, you know, or provide hope. And sometimes that's the only thing that keeps these people going. You know, you have to pray to be open that maybe this experience is turning you into a tougher, stronger, smarter person. Like Stephen Hawking is a great example. Stephen Hawking was like a playboy who was like running around drinking and having a great old time. And he was stricken with this condition that he was told he's going to die very soon. You know, he wasn't going to make it long. And it put him in this wheelchair where all he had all day long to do was think about the existence of the universe and what started it. And if it wasn't for that condition, he would have been running around carousing and doing his thing. So it's
have that greatness.
Yeah. So it's just about accepting your situation, and then
so it's your perception, right? It's your perception on the situation.
For sure.
You know, you can be sitting there, and obviously you can recognize the gravity of a situation and how terminal something might be, and that's hell. Or you can choose to try and see it from a new light after maybe digesting that and go, maybe this will save someone else's life, and we have this time. And if it weren't for this, we wouldn't have this beautiful information from Stephen Hawking. We wouldn't know what we know. We wouldn't have that information, that data, that science, that perspective. And that example of someone that's pushing through something. So, you know, I don't know
where this is going. I don't know what's where this is going to lead to, but I'm just going to try moment by moment to do the best I can with what I've got to do.
Well, then what's heaven? When do you feel the most bliss? You got a new dog, right?
How do you know this?
Because you're hard out in an hour because you got to feed the thing and let it get out. Is it under 6 months?
No, it's a rescue, so
they pee all the time under 6 months, but after that,
you're 6 years old.
You're good then.
So it's a rescue, and so I mean, but that's a good example. You know, my wife was toying with getting a new dog and saw this picture of this super cute dog and had these rescue bring it over for us to look at, and it just loved me. It just loves me. It was like jumping on me, everything. Wagged
its tail. Is it true that you didn't like dogs? Or you don't? I don't think you can say you don't like dogs now because you're in love with this one, right?
My father was allergic, so we couldn't have him. Growing up, it just wasn't, you know. And then I was really allergic to golden retrievers. Like if you locked me in a room with a golden retriever, I would probably die within 4 hours. So we couldn't have pets growing up. So it just wasn't on the. And then I was always so busy and traveling and running around and getting here and getting there and that I can't do this. But my wife, her son had a dog and she loved that dog. So she was like, well, what if we had our own dog? And I'm like, do you really want to do this? And she brought this little cute thing home and it ran right to me, jumping up, wagging the tail, flipping over, and when
submissive.
When it hears my voice, it goes running wherever it is, sits next to the door, jumps up, and I just pick this little thing up and it just sits over my shoulder and we walk around and I sit on my lap while I do my emails and do my work and do writing.
It's a medium-sized dog, but it just fits on your shoulder.
It's like that, yeah. It's a great dog. So it's
But what's heaven like? I mean, I love dogs. So for me, like when I see my dogs, one of my most simple joyous things that I do is taking my dogs out for a walk, whether I take them on the beach, whether I take them in the woods. Mm-hmm. And when they just take off and start running after something, and I can see them kind of circling around and just being so playful, like the way dogs should be.
Yeah,
they
just
people
love
get
you.
mad at me, they're not on a leash. I'm like, you be on a leash and in a box your whole life, okay? And see how you would do. Like, I want them to be dogs. Yeah. And so when I see them get to do that, like I mean, like it can bring me to tears, like to be like in that much of a simple joy situation, to be in nature, to be with them. And I just love it. So I love animals, but what for you brings out that like just such gratitude and like simple joy?
That's one of them, definitely. The other is like being at a restaurant somewhere in Ravello or Positano with my wife. Like you're gonna have the best meal of your life. You're sitting on you took a boat to get there. You can only take a boat to get to this special restaurant. Now you're sitting there and it's going to be the best bread you ever had, the best burrata you ever had, the best tomato you've ever had in your life.
Hang on, I'm going to write this down. What's it called again?
The best pasta. I'll give you the whole list of everywhere to go. But like,
I've never been to Italy, so.
Oh my God. It's like they just have it figured out. They're crazy, they're passionate, they're wild, but like, the table is perfect and everything is asymmetrical. All the plates don't match, all the glasses don't match, but it's like it's perfect. It's like, why would we have it matched? It's boring.
And I think Italy consumes more wine like per capita or per person than any other country combined or something like that, which is just wonderful. I make wine, so I should just go start selling it there.
Oh, really? That's a really hardcore thing, making wine. Like I'm a big Tool fan, and I know that Maynard
makes one.
Dinner.
I've been to his place in Jerome, his cellar door in Jerome. He sources grapes from Napa, and then also I think he grows some in Arizona. But he has a cellar door, as they would call it, in Jerome, Arizona. It's this like very creepy, spooky, haunted town. You'd probably love it.
Sounds like it's right in my alley.
Dungeons and Dragons could have like a revival there. But it's role-playing central. But it's like this windy road up to the top, and it's this haunted little tiny town called Jerome.
Cool.
Yeah. If you know Maynard, do you know Maynard then?
I don't, but I'm like huge fan. I haven't met him. But I know that he was explaining the process of like, it takes years to make sure this grape grows there and this one grows there.
I bought my property in 2009 and my first bottle was for sale in 2017. Yeah, so.
Wow.
Back to the joy again, sorry.
Fair enough. Well, you talk about something you're very passionate about.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think, like my wedding day, was amazing. Seeing the Steelers win Super Bowl 43. In Tampa, Florida, but then also seeing them lose Super Bowl 45.
What if the Packers and the Steelers played each other?
They did
in
Super Bowl 45. That's what I'm saying. I was there.
They did.
Steelers
That's right.
had 6 turnovers. We were going to win with 5, and then we had the 6th, and we lost. Rashard Mendenhall fumbled. Not that I'm.
That was then. That obviously was 2011.
Yep, that's right. Exactly. I was there. It was in Dallas. It was hell on earth.
There was one person I know that was really happy.
I know. Actually I had a conversation with him once about it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Have you met Aaron?
Yeah. We've crossed paths, and we talked about Super Bowl 45.
How'd that go?
Not good for me.
Yeah. I bet he made you feel like you were a small little guard. Right? He was Darth Vader, and you're the little guard.
Very, let me see. Well, he was, it was very like subversive. It was very just like lots of this, like this, like. Oh yeah.
He's protective of his team.
That was a good game. That was a good game. I went, for you guys. We just did that.
There's something really, to me, I find fascinating, and I wish I knew more about it, but it kind of falls into this joy spiritual spectrum, which is meditation. And you do, I can never say the word right, but transcendental?
Transcendental.
Transcendental meditation. What is transcendental meditation?
Transcendental meditation is a meditation technique that dates back like 4,000 years.
How long is a meditation for you?
Typical session is it's like 20 minutes. You sit, you get a mantra that's given to you by a teacher who has studied with the Maharishi in India. It all comes from India. Mantra means mind vehicle.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So, and you're not supposed to tell anybody your mantra once they give it to you. And
is it your own personal mantra for life, or is it just is it a daily thing? Is it a
It's an
yearly?
onomatopoeia, which is a sound like pop or bang. It's a sound.
Oh, okay.
And so you repeat the sound in your mind at a certain volume level, and then you repeat it at a lower level, then at a lower level, a lower, and you just, you descend, eventually the mantra disappears and your mind takes off and you start drifting. Ideally.
Do you feel like, do you lose track of time, like as in you're almost like in a sleep state? Like are you in, what is it, beta, alpha, theta? Like do you get into theta brainwave state?
You can have some pretty trippy stuff happen, but somewhere between awake and asleep, when it's going. Now, there's a lot of mornings where you get up and your brain is going, oh no, we got to do this, we got to do that. Oh no, I have that notes call. Oh no, I have this, oh, I have that. And you have to just take, the thought comes in and you have to just take it back out, return to the mantra. Sometimes you're just fighting for 20 minutes to try to let go.
Dan Harris he was the ABC anchor that created he has like meditation books. There's a Sam Harris and there's Dan Harris, but Dan is the one that I'm talking about, and he explained meditation. I think he has like 10-minute meditation for fidgety people or something like that. He has a couple of books, but he said basically like the point of it is that your mind just does what you said. It thinks of something and then you clear it. And then it's all coming back. It's like the practice of meditation has a lot to do with just bringing the mind back to neutral and away from the thought that's taking you from the simple mindlessness.
But you learn to control your mind. You learn to strengthen your mind. It does work, and what happens is then you get more what's referred to as adaptation energy. So when the world is going faster, you have more on your plate. You can deal with that easier because you can focus on tasks fully and then move to the next. So it's a practice of being present, I think, probably more than anything.
How did you get into that?
I knew somebody who I had heard about it, thought about it, and then someone gave me a call and said, I guess after having a conversation about meditation, somehow this random person called me up and was like, hey, I'm going to learn this. This guy just came back. He lives in India, but he's here. Do you want to come? I said, sure. So I went.
How long ago was this?
15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. And so I learned from this guy. And then years later, and I meditated like religiously, like every morning and then like somewhere in the afternoon, 20 minutes twice a day, every day for like 5 years. Like I remember being on the road driving to a Nine Inch Nails concert in San Luis Obispo and was like, okay, the concert's gonna start. I pulled over on the side of the freeway, meditated my 20 minutes, got back on, and then like went to a Nine Inch Nails show, which is like kind of the opposite.
This is fascinating because I think people would try and, everybody wants to put someone into a box and create an identity for them, and thinking you're into this sort of more fantasy world of, aggression and kill the goblin stuff. Like here you are.
Well, but that's
meditating.
only the identity I think that people have because I put it on Instagram for the past year.
But they're all
you. But prior to that, they would be like, oh, that's that shirtless asshole from Magic Mike. You know what I mean? It's whatever you show people is what you are to them.
Right.
And they don't, that's who you are.
Right, but it's
what do you mean you're something
instead
else?
of judging someone for one thing that they see, recognize that there can be a lot more there.
Also, if you're an actor, it's kind of my job to...
Are you acting right now?
Different people.
So you don't do meditation?
Do I? No, I do. But back to the meditation, I ran into David Lynch in New York, and I knew he was a big meditator, and he had this transcendental meditation, like basically it's like a university kind of here in LA, and they try to bring meditation to kids in school and
awesome.
also communities, because they've done all these weird metaphysical, like post Carl Jung type of tests.
Ooh.
And they find that crime goes down in areas
where they're meditating.
where they're meditators.
That's right.
Which is interesting.
Yep, that's a thing.
Goes back to the collective
consciousness.
thing.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, I learned from this guy who lived in India and da-da-da. He said, who? And I said the name, and he said, he's a charlatan. He's changing all the Maharishis' teachings. You have to come learn from us and
so
give him your
you've gone a next level purist here with this guy.
So I went and actually I just started dating Sofia, and we just started dating, and I said, hey, I'm going to go, relearn how to meditate at David Lynch's school. You interested? You want to come with me? You can come with me. She said, sure. So we went together.
Were you afraid of what she was going to think of you asking?
You're meeting somebody, they're new, and you're kind of like, am I being like some...
You want to do the deep spiritual thing for me right off the bat, right off the bat?
Hey, I'm some hippie weirdo. You want to come with, So you're kind of figuring out what their threshold is for your own weirdness.
But she was up for it.
Oh, totally.
Cool.
Yeah, she went, and we went together, and I kind of like relearned. I got a new mantra, which is pretty much like almost exactly the same mantra that I had
That's interesting. Do you find that interesting?
I do, very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the other guy wasn't so kooky then.
No, maybe they're onto something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, it's. Is
it based on a frequency that they feel of you?
I think it's like, from what I understand, it's like body type, and is a big factor. Body type and age are the factors that I hear go into that. But that's also weird because there's almost 100 mantras. So you're sitting down with this complete stranger, and he closes his eyes and goes,
and he gives you a sound,
and you're like, okay, so this guy knows the whole chart, and there's 100 body types. Like, it's very, like, I don't know how this all...
And your eyes are closed, sir. Do you see that I am 6'5"?
Very strange. Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. It makes me feel like it's based on your frequency, like your energy feel and sort of what resonates, like sort of a resonant frequency or sound, because all of our energy centers or chakras in our body correlate with a note as well. So I've gone and bought crystal bowls, like alchemy bowls. And so when I was doing the session, because it's not just like go pick one, she's like very into it, very passionate. So you sit down, she pulls bowls from you off the counters and shelves all over the place based on her intuition of you. And then you sit there, and first you kind of get into a little meditation with her, and then you sit there and she plays them, and you basically kind of do gladiator, thumbs up, thumbs down, or even say something. But it was like, whoa, I'd be like, sometimes I'd be like, whoa, like my heart's on fire. Like you could feel it correlate with the right shot. And sure enough, the note of that bowl, whether it be an F or a G or an A, would correlate with exactly where I would feel it. So I wonder if like the frequency that you were putting on, I don't know, we're going off on one here.
No,
but I find it interesting that they'd both give you the same note essentially, or same sound.
Yeah. It is strange. But then there's also the story of like the Beatles, where they went to India and they brought their wives, girlfriends, whatever, and they all learned how to TM or Vedic meditate, and they were given a mantra, and they all got out and they were told, don't tell anyone your mantra, and they told each other, and they all had the same mantra. And then they realized that the guy that they met was a charlatan who was just trying to sleep with their girlfriends. So there's that.
But you know what? It could be almost like a spirituality or a belief or a religion that if you believe it works, it does.
Yeah, I've seen some weird stuff in my day. Yeah, sure. I've seen some, I mean, there's stuff that's unexplainable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like alien sightings, right?
Like, did you go and storm
UFOs.
Area 51? Did you go?
I would go.
With everybody?
I would totally go.
Because the idea was like, if everyone shows up, they can't shoot us all. Somebody's going to get in there. I don't really agree with that logic.
I mean, technically, yeah. I mean, they could probably shoot some of us. I saw something on Instagram that was like, screw Area 51, let's storm the Vatican. And I was like, ooh, yeah, good one. Let's go downstairs into the Alexandria, Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
Get that stuff.
I think there's a lot of things we don't know. How do they build the pyramids?
Aliens.
You ever think about that?
Aliens, but you don't believe in aliens, right?
Well, so I did an autograph signing in England, and the promoter also sets up autograph signings for astronauts. And so he's met every single person who's been in space, except for like one.
So we have been to the moon? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'm saying we've been there.
You think we've
According
been there?
to this guy and every other astronaut. So he told me, I said, so, you know, he said, for example, he said that Yuri Gagarin wasn't the first man in space. The first man in space was a Russian that was sent up and burnt up on re-entry. Like just burnt. They were sending him up in like it was like a wooden hot tub. Like it would burn up on the way back. And so they didn't want to give in to this embarrassment. So they were like, Yuri, let's go. You're up. Get in the hot tub.
Let's not talk about that, guys, okay?
And so
Get in the hot tub. Hot tub time machine.
Get him wet. So yeah, he gets in this wooden
Wet him for re-entry.
Let's go. So he comes back and then they say, oh yeah, the first man in space. But there was a guy before that. And there were cover-ups and things like that. So he was getting in he seemed like he was on the up and up. And so I said, have you talked to them about aliens?
The dark side of the moon?
Yeah. And he said, yes, I have. I said, wow.
Yeah.
He said, well, there was one ship, somebody was out there on some space flight and something whizzed past the window and kept going. And they don't know what it was. It made no sense. It moved in a pattern that wasn't like a shooting star or a meteor or anything. It was something changed direction. And that was one. He said that all of them unanimously believe in life on other planets. They're like, it's too infinite, it's too big, there has to be something else out there. I said, well, have they been to here? And he said, all of them unanimously say no. They have not been to our planet. That's not.
So the inner Earth beings theory is out the window for you too, then?
It makes sense to me. It's like you wouldn't. I mean, if you came here, it would be a thing. I don't think it's the middle of the night. Like, what are you doing? You're floating around and.
You don't think you could hide it?
No, I don't.
I mean, they try to hide the JFK thing, but that's your guy out there.
I think if we went somewhere else, it'd be like we have to communicate. You know, I just don't see that. I don't know. But also, it's not about what I think. This is about what the astronaut.
Oh, it is. This interview is all about what you think.
Well, this is about science. This is about the astronaut guy, the guy who books those astronauts.
Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks there's aliens.
I would agree, but have they been?
Or life
have they
on other
been
planets?
Here? Have they been here?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think that. Have you ever watched? So there's a show. I don't watch a lot of TV. Is it on at 4 a.m.? No, it's not.
Okay.
No, it's on FX called Project Blue Book.
No.
And it's about the last season
buying?
was the first.
Buying a discount car.
Obviously, I need help. I only know how to buy new race cars. I don't know how to buy old cars for the road. But this show is about. It's about basically taken from real experiences, real situations that happened in the 50s and 60s about alien sightings, and they've made a show about it. So they'll do an episode about a sighting, and then at the end of it, they will show you what the real stories were back in 1959 or whatever whenever it happened to support the show, to explain to you that there was a backstory to this episode, and this is what it is. So
that's cool. Anyway,
Project Blue Book was a code for all of that stuff happening. Project Blue Book was the alien sightings government code for it, the name. So it's an interesting show.
There's a movie, I can't think of the name of it because I'm getting older. But I will look it up after. There was a movie that came out, I think was it Sundance last year? Where it was about two kids in a little New Mexico town back in the 50s. And one of the kids had a radio show, and the other kid, it was a girl, she was the operator, the phone operator, same time anybody called. And there was a power outage, and this weird sound came over her her headphones, and the guy on the radio show was interviewing somebody, and the sound came over his. So they picked up this weird signal. And then this mysterious guy calls into the radio show and says, I was listening to your radio show and I heard that sound, and I heard it 20 years ago, and I need to tell somebody what happened. And he talks about having to clean up this crash site. It's this really cool little tiny movie that has like long, like 20-minute takes where you just kind of wander through the town. It was great, and I need to look up the damn name because I'm doing it.
That's curious. I'm curious.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Very interesting. So what do you and Sofia like to do together?
What do we like to do?
I mean, she doesn't play Dungeons and Dragons. I know that.
No. What do we?
You're both clothing designers. clearly. You can
I guess
collaborate.
So. We don't really talk about any of that stuff, though. Stuff I like is kind of weird.
Okay. She doesn't vet out your shirt designs and say like.
Sometimes I'll show her the artwork that's in. Like we've got, we're doing Iron Maiden right now, and so like the artwork's like that's coming in is like amazing. So I'll show her like, check this out, and we're gonna do this and do that, and I'm gonna put it on this blank, and then we're gonna make a chandelier out of this design, and we're gonna hang them from the ceiling, all this stuff. Anyway, we watch Netflix. We travel. We go to
Italy.
Yeah, go to Italy. We just went to Italy, which is awesome. So we have our spots that we like to go. There's some like kind of like day trips around here. Not day trips, but like weekend trips.
Yeah.
Because everything's like 2 hours from LA.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, LA is a cool place to be as far as like getting to a mountain or getting to the beach, even going to Mexico. I mean, if you want to.
You ever been to Julian?
No.
Julian's this little like, it looks like Deadwood. It's like a little old mining town up in the mountain. I'm on top of this mountain, very close to San Diego. And right around like now, they start getting these great apple crops.
Wow.
So you walk through this old west town, and every single place has their own type of apple pie. This is apple boysenberry, apple strawberry, apple. Then everyone has like their homemade ice cream, vanilla, cinnamon, and you just hang out and walk around and eat apple pie.
Is that part of your diet, apple pie?
Sure, sometimes.
Do you eat really restrictively?
I do when I have a project that warrants that.
Right, like Magic Mike.
Magic Mike, 5 years of True Blood.
Oh yeah,
with the
True
Magic
Blood
Mike's
for
inside.
sure.
There were 6 years where I trained twice a day, 6 days a week for 10 months out of the year.
Ouch, that gets a little old.
You get, you just, some days you don't wake up so good.
Your trainer is a CrossFit guy, right?
He won the Masters competition.
2016 Masters, which the age category is like 35 to 40.
He was the fittest man over 45 in the world.
Yeah. So I go to CrossFit games every year.
Did you go to Madison? Oh, you went to Madison, yeah.
The last 3 years I've been there, yeah.
I used to go in there in California.
Oh, of course, that makes sense.
And I used to go to California regionals, and then I go to the games in Carson every year.
So, I mean, it's... I feel like
what are we doing?
So
We're opening
cliche.
a Pandora's box right now? What's
because
happening?
I mean, I probably should have led with CrossFit because how someone does CrossFit.
We led with Dungeons and Dragons, and now we're getting to CrossFit. This is like I like the arc. I like the arc of this.
It's a different one. I tried to play it
It's the only podcast ever where you're going to get that transition.
That's brought to you by.
And we talked about hell in heaven,
Joe's content
and meditation.
and my direction.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, yeah.
Kudos
to you.
Thank you. I held it in as long as I could, but I had to ask. I was like, I know you need to get going, and I know that you want to get back to your dog. What's your dog's name?
Bubbles.
Of course it is. Bubbles. But how do I not ask you
Bubbles
about
looks like a
CrossFit?
little baby seal with a foxtail. Okay. And it just runs like
really
this across
fat?
the floor. No, it's just like this little thing, and it just like...
Is it its hair, or is it actually just huge?
It's this big. It's this big. It's this little baby seal, and it comes running over to me from across the floor, and then it jumps up, and then I pick it up, and I just sit it here, and then I just walk around with it.
Cute. I bet that's cute. Just I can picture it now.
His name is Bubbles.
Okay.
I mean, they were like, "You gonna change it?" No, that's what the dog came with. They were like, "You gonna change the?" I'm like, "It's 6 years old. I'm not gonna change the thing's name. Don't change my name. What's your problem?" You just got
some street cred back though, right there, by saying that it was Bubbles. Bubbles' name has always been Bubbles.
Plus, it's like a friend of mine was like, "Listen, man, it's gonna be really hard to be angry when Bubbles is around.
Like, hey,
you can't be mad at a dog named Bubbles.
Bubbles, just come over."
And that's kind of
That's you either got to name it like something really tough and strong, or you go the other spectrum and you just call it like Bubbles.
Yeah.
So I know you need to get back to Bubbles, but we got to talk about CrossFit for like 3 minutes.
Cool.
So you've been doing that for how long?
Well, I probably the first year or two on True Blood was probably, which was like, I don't know, what was that, like 2010, 2011. That was like pretty much like straight up bodybuilding. And then the third year was when my trainer Ron really got hardcore into CrossFit. Left the private gym that we were training at, started his own gym.
Did he start the lab? I ended up looking him up because I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And because I had read that he was the fittest man. I'm like, I know the fittest man. It's been Rich Froning and Matt Frazier forever. But I was like, oh yeah, he was a Masters champ. So and that's actually the gym that I would use when last year at the beginning of the year we stayed in that area, and I went to that CrossFit gym.
Really?
Yep.
Did they hook you up?
No.
All right. Well,
there was a lot of dogs there. I do remember that.
It is dog central.
Dog central there.
I am not the big dog while you're working out guy. I need to lay on that floor, and I don't know what just happened here before I got here. Anyway, but
you could just pet the dogs all day over by the GHD machines.
I got to work out. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to GHD and get licked in my face when I go down.
Unless it's Bubbles.
Well,
So do you feel like it was a big transformation do you feel like it was a transformative practice? Like, did it go from bodybuilding to CrossFit? I mean, there's some bodybuilding kind of element in it because there's lifting, but it's just Olympic lifting and there's not a lot of it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the way that I worked out at that point it was like what you would do with a football player. So it was like, it was bodybuilding, and it was also like, timed wads, and AMRAPs and things. So you're gonna get your heart rate up while you're working out. You're really gonna push hard, but you're also doing Olympic. You're working on the big weights, and then but it was like roll to roll. Yeah. So goal on True Blood, shredded with mass. Okay. Got to get the morning cardio, got to eat, then you got to go hit heavy weights. So that was the formula for a while. Then I did Sabotage, where I had read this book about a ATF guy who infiltrated the Hells Angels. He was a college football player, and I just pictured my character. So I was playing basically that character. I just pictured him like thick neck, big, huge, scary looking. And so we did Olympic powerlifting. We did like
Sumo
a powerlifting
deadlift, high pulls on fleek.
We were like heavy, like super heavy deadlifts, heavy squats, but only like 2 reps and rest. So it's like lots of fun because you get to hang out.
You stand around a lot.
Go to the gym, be huge.
Recover for like 2.5 minutes.
Everything you can. Do 2 reps, sit. 2 reps,
That is not CrossFit,
so
though.
much fun. No, but I got up, put on like 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Got really big. That was great. And then went back to True Blood. And then also I was writing a book about bodybuilding. And so I wanted those pictures. So at the time, I was entering into a period where it was like, I was going to shoot all the pictures from my book, which was going to take like four sessions, like 4 days. We mapped it out. I was shooting Men's Health UK, Men's Health US, and then Muscle and Fitness. And those.
Let's hope you got them all in the same week so you didn't have to be miserable for too long.
I was like, let's just
line it up. That's how I agree. I'm with you.
But I need enough time in between to recover from each shoot, because you're not going to eat a big meal and then go shoot. You have to deplete. And then I don't do water pills or drugs or I knew guys that really messed themselves up doing that stuff. So I would stop drinking water the night before to try to just dehydrate. So that you could get the pictures right. So we put like 7 days of shooting into 2.5 weeks. Because I would have like a day, a couple days in between.
Ridiculously shredded by the end.
Crazy. And
ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. But I remember on the last day of shooting for the book, the photographer was like, "Hey, can we get you to climb that rope?" And I was like, "I can't feel my fucking I can't lift my arm."
You're like I can barely stand here. I'm so dizzy.
Yeah. So I don't know what kind of permanent damage all of that, but the pictures are great. And someday, I'll be like, "Hey, that's Grandpa." So respect Grandpa. You see that?
Hand me some more garlic bread.
Yeah, exactly. As I crushed 30 plates of pasta in 12 days in Italy.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
So that was, and so coming out of that big powerlifting chapter, I had a lot of weight on, and so knowing that I was going to do those shoots in like 5-6 months,
just went into a cut.
So I was mass with that cut.
That's the. I mean, it actually worked ideal to mass and then cut like that. I've never been brave enough to do a mass and cut. I think I accidentally mass, but in general, I accidentally mass. But the cutting part is just zero fun for me. I'd rather just stay right at my minimums and then just still work out, because I hate being hungry.
But it's such a mental challenge. It's torture. It's a real masochism. You have to have that type of personality, because you are you are really sticking it to yourself. It is it ges crazy.
So what's your favorite moves in CrossFit, and then least favorite? And then I'm going to let you get back to bubbles.
I like all the overhead. I like all the overheads. I was, volleyball, basketball, you always had, basketball, you have the ball, you hold the ball up over your head. Volleyball, you're always playing with your hands up. So there was so much when I was younger of, you get to practice and it's like you don't touch a ball for 20, 30 minutes. You're just running. And then blow the whistle, push up, blow the whistle, 10 jumps, high as you can on the wall, whatever all that stuff, with your arms above your head.
Yeah.
So, I know a lot of guys have trouble with shoulder mobility. I have no problem.
So that's actually, Rich Froning would say that, like, when I would ask him, because I'm friends with him, and I said, what are the things that you don't get beat? He's like, overhead. He's like, anything overhead. He's like, tough to beat me on that.
Interesting.
Overhead squats, wall balls.
Those are and rowing. But there's
rowing, of course. You're 6'5". Imagine me
box
rowing.
Jumps.
Imagine me rowing.
Well, but those are the few.
You're almost to the target for your 10-foot target. Now you got me down here at the 9-foot target. It's not fair.
You do 30-pound?
What? Stop it.
Just kidding.
It's 14 for those who don't know.
Fair
it's
enough.
20 for guys and 14 for girls. Now, I have done 20-pound med ball wall balls. Just like I've done Karen for which is 150 wall balls, but I would use the 20.
Once you go heavier, if you train with heavier, when you get into like a workout or a competition, like if you train heavier than what the RX is, you're going to be fine.
That's pretty much, that's if there's anything that I've seen with CrossFitters and seeing Rich and seeing them train and having been to Mayhem and, going to the game. I've seen, he's stayed at the house before. So they train with giant volume so that the games are okay, are totally digestible.
It's like 4 or 5 days and that. That's brutal. My trainer, Ron,
Does he still go? Does he still do master? No.
No, he's taking a break. He's 6'2" and competed at 240 and 245, like in that ballpark. So 6'2", 240. He's the tallest by 4 inches at least, and probably the heaviest by.
Yeah.
We're talking.
When you look at
almost 50 pounds.
When you look at Tia, who's the female, last 3 years games champ. For individuals, she's like 5'4", 130-ish.
Yeah, exactly. So
makes me feel pretty bad about myself, actually. I'm like, she cleaned 265. Okay.
Well, that's the crazy thing is like Ron. He beats the smaller guys in the gymnastic movements. He would crush them in muscle ups. He would crush them in pull ups.
That's impressive.
I thought he's going to go down. He's done. Like pull ups. Once he gets to the weights, he'll be okay. But the pull ups, he'll get. He beat them all in the pull ups. Got off. Got to the weights. It was big axle bar. Oh. And he had to clean with the axle bar, and just crushed everybody.
So then your least favorite would be
burpees.
Burpees.
Burpee is the enemy of anything over 6 foot. That
would be why I love it.
They're not dynamic. It's like, what am I doing?
Stop it.
It's like,
stop it.
It's like I'm in the grass
a full body move.
In like a army movie. It's like, this is terrible. It's like reminds me of football practice in the grass and the heat in like August. It's like, why am I?
You probably are.
Nobody cares how fast I do this crap.
So I'm gonna tell you what I did one time because I didn't want to think of multiple movements and I was like, I'll do 1,000 burpees for time. I ended up deciding that I shouldn't because I didn't have enough time for that and it was going to take over an hour.
So you do have this masochistic thing.
I did 500 for time.
What was your time?
It was about 35 minutes. I can't remember, 35:25 or 35 something. I only stopped to write down the 100. Every 100 I wrote the time on the clock. And then I did another 100 and then I wrote the time on the clock. So
no.
So then, we'll just meet back up at the lab, and we'll just have a workout that has burpees and wall balls and burpees and rowing, or burpees and wall balls. Which one do you want?
I'll go wall ball. I love wall,
burpees and wall balls, and we'll just see where it pans out.
God, that sounds like hell on earth. There it is. That's my answer. What's hell on earth?
But you know what is heaven?
Burpees.
It can be heaven. Winning. All right. Thank you so much, Joe.
Okay, we're going to overhead squat. Let's go.
Okay, sounds good. I like overhead.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. And also, thank you so much, Trevor Hall, for the awesome music. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.